All right, if you are an insurance agent that buys leads, you have to listen to this video. There's been new rulings coming from the FCC banning specific type of lead strategies that really are very prominent in the insurance, especially the life insurance business. We're going to go into detail in this video explaining to you what those lead strategies are, what the FCC is saying is not okay anymore, and what you can do about it to avoid the TCPA violations that are certainly likely to come as this new ruling comes into effect over the next 6 months or so. My name is David DuFord, owner of the DIG Agency. If you're looking for an agency to call home and to sell final expense successfully in person or over the phone, you can check out my website for more information, davidduford.com. So what is this ruling all about that the FCC has just approved of and released today on December 13th, 2023? Well, it's very simple. You see, there are tons of lead generators, not just in the insurance space, but in the home improvement space, the real estate space, I mean, just any kind of space, really, that relies on a type or style of lead generation where you are going to share the leads or develop the leads in kind of this like underhanded way. And what this outcome has produced is consumers who have lost their minds, understandably. They went onto a website, they have requested information about one particular product, but because of how the lead generating sites and processes are built, they send that information to not just one particular vendor, but a multitude of vendors, and not necessarily in the same vertical, but in other verticals as well. Maybe somebody comes in and wants a new window installed in their house, but now they also get requests in their leads for maybe a external or internal painting done on the house, right? So there's a lot of abuse that's been going on by consumers that have had all of these random people calling them and texting them and just hounding them to death that has made really the user experience of the phone terrible. As we all know, right? I mean, that's how we all are. Nobody answers the phone anymore because in large part to how these marketing organizations operate. And what's unique about it is that there are certain MLMs in this space of life insurance especially that I have harped on for years that rely on this method. And now, based off the readings, and I pulled some quotes from the source that I want to show you that I think hit the main points clearly. These MLMs are not going to operate in the same capacity because they've been taking this data and reselling it and marking it up tremendously at a huge cost that has caused a lot of agents to fail out of the business thinking they're getting quality leads and they're not. So we're going to go through this ruling and hit the high notes. And then we're going to talk about some of the consequences that are going to come from this because there are going to be adaptations that the agencies and the agents even are going to have to do. And you need to be prepared ahead of time to know how to think and how to operate so that you stay compliant, but you also stay profitable. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little magic here on my end of the screen and pull down my video. There it is, perfect. And I'm going to go real small here so you guys can see. So let's jump into some of these, quotes that the FCC ruling is showing us. We now make it unequivocally clear that texters and callers must obtain a consumer's prior express written consent from a single seller at the time of the comparison shopping websites that often are the source of lead generation, thus closing the lead generator loophole. And again, what this is saying is so many leads that are generated, not just in insurance, but other verticals as well, as they get compared and sent to and shared to other vendors, not just the one that they're thinking they're requesting, and also other verticals as well. And what this is doing is that inside of the lead generation process, when a consumer goes in and requests a quote on something, there has to be some sort of consent that this one lead request is going to one vendor that can provide that request. So it completely, in huge proportion, cuts down the gigantic sharing of the leads and the constant influx of calls and texts that consumers unexpectedly and arguably don't want. Continuing, requiring one-to-one consent will end the current practice of consumers receiving robocalls and robotexts from tens or hundreds, more like thousands of sellers. Numbers that most reasonable consumers would not expect to receive. Again, it's marketers that have ruined this for everybody else, the ones that have pushed the limit to the maximum, Nobody wants this. The marketer's probably doing this crap, don't want it, and set it up this way. And now that all is coming to a thankful end. Continuing on here. Lead generated communications are a large percentage of unwanted calls and texts, and often rely on flimsy claims of consent to bombard consumers with unwanted robocalls and robotexts. Again, the leads in the insurance space that are data, they aren't, for the most part, going online and requesting a quote. They're going into some survey where they may say something like, yeah, I'm interested in life insurance, or you agree that life insurance is an important thing, and they select yes, along with saying other things with the chance to win an iPad or to win some money or something. And all that process these consumers are doing is creating leads to be shared out and distributed, of which they never thought they would be the victim of. Of course, it's probably in the fine print somewhere, but this new ruling gets rid of all of that junk leads. That is, again, in our space, in the insurance space, so friggin' common. We require consent to one seller at a time, but this requirement does not specifically specify how many sellers can be listed on a web page. So if for some reason you went to a web page and you're requesting a quote, what they're saying here is, we'll get into, you can request quotes, so there's transparency now in who you want quotes from when you go in to request this. It's not presumed that this could be shared to anybody that you want to. There has to be some decision-making process on the side of the prospect. If the web page seeks to obtain prior express written consent from multiple sellers, the web page must obtain express consent separately for each seller. So that means, I would imagine, I'm not a lawyer, but there's got to be check boxes where the client can go in and check the boxes, the ones they're interested in. In addition, the other sellers can be included on the web page for reasons other than obtaining consent. So, for example, for contact that does not require TCPA prior express written consent, or with information allowing the consumer to contact the seller directly. Continuing, robotext and robocalls that result from consumer consent obtained on comparison shopping websites must be logically and topically related to that website. Huge benefit to consumers, and I would argue even agents. Thus, for example, a consumer giving consent on a car loan comparison shopping website does not consent to get robotexts or robocalls to learn about loan consolidation, right? And this is what has been happening in the life insurance space. If you've ever worked for those 3-letter MLMs that sell you these data leads, this is the crap that they're shoveling to you. The person went onto a website to do something other than get information on life insurance. Not that it's an impossible lead to sell, but many of those leads are not leads, they're just data, like there's a glorified cold call. And then B, the organizations rate those prices up on the leads by tons of money. That in of itself is a huge source of profit. Where it may cost 25 cents to acquire that lead, probably less, they rate it up to like $10 a lead. And so they make huge money off of you thinking it's a fresh lead when it's just some recycled garbage many times. And in other cases, people aren't even knowing they're requesting for life insurance. Is that a lead? No, it's not. And this new ruling ends that entirely. Praise the Lord. Continuing on, websites, including comparison shopping websites, can use a variety of means for collecting one-to-one consent from multiple sellers to comply with a rule. For instance, a website may offer to a consumer or a checkbox list that allows the consumer to specifically choose each individual seller that they wish to hear from. Again, from a consumer standpoint, isn't this transparent? I mean, like if I'm going to fill out this form and I don't expect to be barraged by texts and calls, I want to see and have transparency who I am agreeing to have contact me. I think it's perfect. Alternatively, the comparison shopping website may offer the consumer a click-through link to specific businesses so that the business itself may gather express written consent from the consumer directly. We nonetheless give, and this is the outcome of this. So this upends the entirety of the lead generation world that relies on this dubious way to generate leads, because this is how so many of the players out there, the big players, get their leads and then sell them to you or ask you to work them and call them leads. But with that said, here's what the FCC has as far as the turnaround time in getting this started. We nonetheless give texters and callers and any third-party websites they obtain consent through a 6-month implementation period to make the necessary changes to ensure consent complies with our new requirement. This implementation period should provide both lead generators and callers that rely on leads to generate ample time to implement our new requirements. So sometime second or third quarter next year is probably what we're looking at as far as when this new law will go into effect. And again, as you can tell, I'm thrilled because this puts the kibosh on the MLMs out there that abuse you guys. And they now have to come up with legitimate strategies to generate leads. And it's going to have a huge impact on our business. And I'll give you some reasons why. So let's talk about the blowback and some of the outcomes that can come from this, this lead generation upheaval. So first of all, the business has really been relying on this kind of lead for many, many years now. That's how a lot of these MLMs got really big, because by doing this strategy, as much as I've been down talking it, it has allowed an affordable way for agents to get into business that may otherwise not have gotten into it. They've gotten data that's cheap. They've gotten into the business to talk to people, whereas they probably wouldn't if they were told to cold call. And so when you take this strategy away, and now you require the carrier, or I should say the agencies and the MLMs and really any agent to do a one-to-one consent, that means the lead costs are going to go up. And I think to an extent, the recruitability that these large, specifically the large MLMs are going to have too, is going to dwindle, because they relied on recruiting agents to these nonsense lead generation strategies. And now with those gone, and the promise of selling 100 leads for $500 are toast, unless you want to get sued to death, it's going to impact the recruitability of the average agent that's out there. Also, a lot of the data or a lot of the live transfers that you see these companies do and purport to have rely on this very data that's generated. They're not calling insurance leads. They're not calling stuff that was generated one-to-one. They're using this data to then feed to a call center to qualify to see if they're interested in life insurance. That stuff goes away in 6 months. It is entirely and completely illegal. Now, here's what will happen. First of all, if you're an agent that is working a lead system, say you're self-generating leads or you're buying leads online from a reputable vendor, my opinion is that those lead systems will continue to work, because you can consent and get one-to-one consent on individual ad campaigns that are run for you. Like, for example, in our Alpha Leads program, where we provide leads at cost, meaning there's no markup to our agents for just a monthly management fee, we can put this consent form inside of the Facebook forums. And I agree that I will talk to XYZ agent about this particular product. It is not a hard thing for us to do. So if you're buying your leads, or you're self-generating your leads, or your agency is generating leads in this kind of one-to-one strategy, you have nothing to worry about, in my opinion. It's where you rely on data as a source of leads that you either buy, or that there are live transfers that are generated from them, that's going to be hugely affected, and we'll probably see that whole system completely just go away and a new invention. Other things that may happen, it is very possible that because a lot of this data has gone away, that you will see some shifting back into generating leads on Facebook, social media, the way to actually generate a one-to-one lead. And you'll probably see prices do go up. I don't know to what extent or how effective the price will go up, but I would see if there's a rush back into social media and to generating these leads, then you'll probably see a price increase overall over the next year or two. But I would say too, I think this really does affect the recruitability, especially in the MLM world. If you don't have cheap leads and all you do is recruit people, and you don't have these like cheapo leads to go to, it's going to be very hard to build, especially a telesales model to build and sell. You might be able to get away with old-fashioned face-to-face sales where you take the leads, you don't call them, but you go out there and work them on a face-to-face basis. But even that's dubious at best. The problem still remains. How are you going to generate a one-to-one lead where that person buying the lead is the person it's going to? And in a sense, it actually does damage the potential for even aged leads. Granted, maybe if the one-to-one consent is the agency itself and there's 10,000 agents, maybe that's the way they'll get around it. But again, it's going to drive up lead cost, but I think it's going to affect the recruitability of the amount of agents that come in. So the cool thing is if you are running an agency and you actually develop quality leads for your agents, this doesn't really hurt you. It helps you tremendously. You've already got the one up versus all these other agencies that are, purposely buying the garbage, and now they got to reinvent the wheel, whereas you've got a system in place that's working really well. So in short, I'm excited. I think this is perfect for our business. This is going to clamp down on the MLM insurance agencies out there that bring so many people in, tell them this great lead source, which really isn't, and ruins them financially. So we're going to see a lot of agents maybe not even come to this business, but not get financially ruined. But in the same breath, what this leads you towards as the agent is overall, the agencies that survive through this, that are getting leads for you, or you're getting leads yourself, the quality of the lead should improve. That's a good thing. The garbage and junk that we're given to review and buy and work is going to lessen because there's so much financially and litigation-wise at stake for companies to continue doing this. So what do you think about this? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this ugly? Feel free to comment below. Again, I'm super excited. We're completely pumped and primed to handle this big change. But the big guys out there, if you're with the big guys and you rely on these leads, watch out. This is not a good thing at all. So change up your methodology on leads if you're using that stuff. Consider the source on live transfers if you're using those. Get back to doing social media marketing, generating one-to-one leads. The quality is going to go up anyway, guys, and I think your results are going to be that much better. So feel free to comment below. Hope you enjoyed this content today, and glad to see something good has come around that the government has done. See ya.